I was going to have Mike do the fade out so I wouldn't have to bend over. This is the NS74. I've had it for many years now. Replaced a couple of very expensive nylon strings on the road that got damaged. This is a trooper, and it's so consistent from night to night with the built-in Fishman blender. I get the EQ set, and it's just the same every night. I can listen to it, and I don't have to worry about microphones. I don't have to listen to feedback. So it's just, I always get the sound that I want. I'm used to the difference in the neck. It was a little bit of an adjustment from a thick classical neck. But the addition to the sensor in the body, when I can add a little bit of that for like percussive effects, it's like a, I don't know, it's like a guitar made for me for sure. Anyhow, I'm going to turn it back over to Andy now, and Andy's going to take over.
Thank you, Wayne. Hello, hello. I was thinking I was going to play something, but after I just heard that, I might just talk for a little while. How y'all doing? Thanks for having us here. We're really happy to be here and looking forward to tonight. Anybody, Mike said it's a little hard to see, but anybody been to a Taylor Roadshow before here? Yeah? Good. How many people already own a Taylor guitar here? Yes. How many own more than one? 2? 3? Yes. You're the reason we get to come and do these shows, so we thank you. We get paid because of you guys. Thank you. So, as Mike said before, what we're going to do tonight is just spend a little bit of time talking about kind of where Taylor is as a company after 35 years. Bob's been building that long now. This is our 35th anniversary. And this is sort of, you know, what has the fruition of his labor all these years is kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. We make 5 different body shapes. And then Mike, I'm going to talk about the 5 different body shapes and sort of the inherent tonal qualities of those instruments. And then Mike's going to take it a little step further and talk about how tone woods affect those body shapes. And then we're going to listen to Wayne a little bit more, and we're going to talk about T5 electric guitar. So, anybody out there own a guitar that ends with the number 4, like a 414, 514? Yeah. That is what's called a grand auditorium, and that's the first shape I'm going to talk about. The Grand Auditorium is probably, if you talk to Bob Taylor about this, we're all going to say Bob like a million times tonight, and we're talking about Bob Taylor, okay? Or BT, if you know him, he's BT. So the Grand Auditorium, any guitar that we make that ends with the number 4, a 614, 414, 914, those are all the same body shape. And this is kind of the shape that put us on the map, so to speak. Traditionally, when you think about acoustic guitars, and especially steel strings, you might picture something that's a little bit bigger than this. You might picture something that has wider waists and maybe even a little bit deeper. But Bob, being somebody who's always designed, always had a sound in his own head. He's not really somebody who's ever been trying to build a guitar that sounds like anyone else's. He's always been tinkering with things. And when he came up with this shape in 1994, the first thing he did was send all the prototypes down to a bunch of people who were working in Nashville, studio musicians, engineers, producers. And the verdict was immediate, and it was very good. And what people love about grand auditoriums is that they're extremely well balanced. You can put this guitar in front of a microphone, and you don't have to mess around with a lot of EQ, you don't have to add bass, you don't have to subtract bass. It just sounds really good right out of the box. And so a grand auditorium is probably the reason why it's our most popular shape. If you're somebody who does a little bit of fingerstyle, you play some blues once in a while, you work on fiddle tunes, you play some jazz chords, you strum some big chords. A grand auditorium is a guitar that sits right in the middle. It does all those things really well. So anything that ends in a 4 is a grand auditorium. And we'll talk about that, and there's a bunch of them up here.
One thing I want to mention is that when we talk about the grand auditorium in general at the shop, it's essentially the Swiss Army knife of shapes. So if you've ever found yourself in that quandary where it's, you know, a question of do I like to play fingerstyle? Am I a flat picker only? Am I a singer-songwriter? Do I do light gigging, or do I have the home studio that I'm always at? It's kind of the jack of all trades. It will accommodate just about anything that you're going to try to approach.
Exactly. The next shape, this is called the GS. And hey Wayne, can you grab that last one I had there? That GA, and hold it up. The GA. Now, if you look at these two shapes next to one another, there we go, you're going to notice that they're pretty darn close, right? And in fact, I've done this demonstration lots of times, and I'm holding it, and I'm talking about it, and it's the wrong guitar. It happens all the time. Because they're the same depth, the body depth is the same, but the only thing that's different about the GS, the one I'm holding, is that the outside edges, this whole outside boundary edge is just a little bit bigger, and that has a huge effect on the sound of this guitar. Whereas the GA, the Grand Auditorium, is real balanced and sort of sits in a lot of, feels real well right in the middle. The GS gives you a lot more volume sort of in the lower mid-range area. It's a guitar that you can hit really hard. If you're somebody who likes to strum hard, you like to flat pick, you like a lot of overtones, you like a guitar that's going to fill up the whole room, a GS is a really good choice. And it's really interesting because when you look at him, like I said, this is like where Bob's at these days. He's all about shapes. He believes there's inherent tone in shapes. And it's a little bit wider. It's about 1/4 inch wider across the bottom bout, but it has a huge effect on the sound. This guitar, like I said, if you want to hit, if you have a guitar that you want to hit really hard, hey Steve, right there.
It's always harder to tune a guitar in front of people.
What's that?
I said it's always harder to tune a guitar in front of someone else.
Like I said, a GS is sort of a guitar that if you, it's like kind of like a car, like a really nice sports car. It's got an extra gear. Like when you're cruising along and you need a little extra, like you have another gear, a GS will stick with you. If you can keep hitting it, it gets really loud. A lot of presence in the lower mids in this guitar. GS. The next shape we're going to talk about is the Grand Concert. Now this is an extreme from what I just played because this guitar is kind of completely on the other end of the spectrum. This is a smaller, more intimate sound. It's the smallest body we make. Any guitar that ends in the number 2 or starts with the letters GC is a Grand Concert, and that's this size. It's the shallowest guitar. It's a little bit shallower this way. Smaller across the bout, smaller across the waist. And it's also a short scale instrument, which means the distance between the nut and the saddle is about 1/2 inch shorter than every other model, every other shape that we make. And as a result, you get a guitar that has a really light feel to it. It's a really easy, comfortable guitar to play just because of its size, but also because there's a little bit less string tension because of the short scale. And this makes a really nice intimate guitar, really great for fingerstyle playing. And you know, if you think about a lot of your favorite fingerstyle guitar players, lots of times they're playing smaller body guitars. They don't necessarily need that huge volume from the last guitar that I just played, because what you want to hear is the melody. You want the melody to come out on these guitars, and it's really easy when you have a shape like this. Real nice balance between low end and high end, right? So that's the Grand Concert. This is also a really neat shape for if you're playing in a band, right? If you say you're playing in a band and another guy has a big old jumbo or something. Well, if you have the same exact guitar, those two guitars are going to stack on top of one another and almost sometimes cancel one another out because they have very similar voices. Or if you have one guitar that has a big bottom end, lots of, real dark, and the other guitar is a little thinner and brighter, collectively, I think your overall sound as a duo might be a little bit bigger, right?